Hello out there, all you wonderful people. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy. Thank you once again for lending me your time and your ear and listening in to another Why You Know Game video. And I do apologize that it's so late in the day. I I had like two ideas that I was really wanting to talk about, but I was debating back and forth which one I would do. So, what I'm going to do this weekend is the one that I think is probably the simpler to express idea, and then I'll have the other video ready for next weekend. That way I can put a little bit more time into that. Um, this one I was thinking about Resident Evil in 2D. And before anyone says anything, I know about Resident Evil Gaiden on the Game Boy Color. I've played it, and I also know about I don't remember what it's called, but there's like a fan game version of Resident Evil 2 that uses the open bore engine, which is basically just a beat 'em up engine. It uses that to take place of Resident Evil 1. So I think it's called Crisis Evil. I know about those, but I had in my mind, like, has anybody ever seen like the RPG Maker like fan horror games and things like that? I kind of always wondered what the experience would feel like if you were to take Resident Evil and put it in a top-down perspective. Like, you don't necessarily, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a clone of any of the other games, but like a clone of Resident Evil 1 or 2 could actually be like really interesting in the top-down perspective, like in the RPG Maker perspective. Like, not necessarily meaning that anybody from Capcom would have to use the RPG Maker to do it. Like, but I always thought, like, how could they? Like, it's an awesome, like, the games are good in either way. But like the original trilogy and Code Veronica are definitely stamped as like the best games in the series. Like, but I always wondered, like, if they took those games and gave them like a different perspective. Like, I've also thought of like them taking the Resident Evil 4 perspective and doing that, but that's also something that someone else as a fan has done. Like, so I'm like, if they did like a top-down perspective, like RPG Maker perspective, you still got your weapons and all your items and stuff, and it didn't do that crap that it does of Resident Evil Gaiden, where it changes to like this cinematic first-person perspective where you're using an aiming reticle to try to kill zombies, but rather it's still staying top-down, and you're just like your character is just aiming and shooting at the zombies as they see them. I kind of wondered what that would be like, and if that would be like a good way to actually put like the older Resident Evil games on like a mobile or portable platform. Like, I thought about that. I mean, and I'm not talking about like what Nintendo has coming with the Switch, because that's not necessarily meant to be used that way. But what I'm talking about is something like the 3DS or the Vita. Mind you, either of those machines should actually be able to play the older Resident Evil games the way they were before anyhow. But what I'm thinking about is like just to like other ways to tell the same story. Like something, not anything like what Gamescom was trying to do. Gamescom was basically trying to clone the original experience in 2D, but they were trying to do it as a stand-up. The same way that with Resident Evil 2 anyway, that's the same thing that was happening with the GBC port, not GBA, Game Boy Color port of the original Resident Evil. It's basically the same type of thing, which is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, like I said, the top-down perspective with like the little chibi-looking esque characters. And I kind of think that if they did that, they could kind of highlight, like, they could highlight a lot of things and make things tense. Like, they could add tension to it in places that you wouldn't necessarily get it before. And, like, I just think that's an interesting thing that could have been done. And then, like, and there's probably some Capcom fan out there right now working on something like that. And Like when I look at it, I was like, Capcom, if you commissioned something like this, it's another way to express these stories. If you're going to keep reusing them, why not think of different ways to use them instead of doing it the same way over and over and just making it slightly prettier? Why not change the perspective and change the way people have to interact with the game and see if it catches on, see if there's something to it, see if this is viable for, like I said, for mobile platforms and things of that nature. But like I think it actually would probably make more sense on the mobile platform that way. Like you have your Resident Evil top down like that, and like because that for a mobile platform you not having physical buttons. I mean, this would actually make more sense for something like that with the touchscreen. And yes, it works with buttons, as obviously we've had those games for a those types of games for a long time, like just the top-down perspective. Um, it just seems like something interesting to me. Like it could work out very well. It could be another way to make money off of the series. It could be interesting, and on top of that, it doesn't actually change the core of Resident Evil. It just gives you a new angle to look at it. That's why it hit me. But like I was just thinking, I was like that could actually work, and it might actually be fun. It might be interesting. It might actually be something that could catch people off guard. Now, like what I'm thinking is they could use like dynamic lighting effects, like so your character's field of vision is only like a certain amount of space on the map while you're walking around. So you have like a box like this, not necessarily a box, but a little area like this as far as like what you can see around your character. But you still have to, like, you'll still be able to like see the outline and things of like where you're walking and the paths that you're taking. I don't know. Like, I think it could be something worthwhile doing, and it could be, like I said, it could be interesting. Because I've always kind of wondered what other things they could do with these games that could broaden the audience that can play them or that will play them, as well as still making it interesting but not destroying the core concept of the games or the stories. And for me, that was something to think about. Like, it just seemed like an interesting thought. I mean, it's not necessarily something that would be successful, but I think it could be if it was done and promoted the right way. I think it really could be something that could become successful. And who knows? Like it could open up a window of opportunity for not necessarily remastering the games, but transforming the games into something similar, but yet still different. Because when you think about it, the way the tank controls work in Resident Evil games, if you just gave a top-down perspective, you could eliminate the need for the tank controls, but you could still have a perspective that causes tension. Like, you don't necessarily have to give everybody complete visibility of everything. You could remake all of the maps. To me, it just seems like it would be a good idea and something worth trying. But that's just me. That's me personally. I know not everyone would agree with that. But when I was thinking about it, I was like, this is a perspective that could essentially work for this type of game. And like I said, all these RPG Maker horror games that aren't necessarily using the role-playing aspect of the RPG Maker, but they're just making games that have tension, they have suspense, and they can pull you into a world and a story in a kind of unique way with this top-down perspective. And I think that would work for Resident Evil. At least if it, like I said, just for like mobile platforms. I'm not expecting this to be on like home consoles. I wouldn't expect this to be done on PC. I mean, though I could see a lot of people on PC playing something like this and enjoying the hell out of it. But I don't think it would necessarily have to be for PC. But that's just me. Just my random thought about something that could be done with Resident Evil. Thank you guys very much for listening. Keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games. Peace out.